Welcome to GearCheckGames. This is part 10 of our commentary for Metroid Prime. Last time we obtained the Ice Beam in the Chozo Ruins and the Gravity Suit here in Phendrana Drifts, and today we're going to use the Gravity Suit to go back to a place we've already been, but in a way that you maybe did not expect.
Oh man.
They really made a lot of use out of this.
Played this nearly 20-year-old game.
I was gonna say, they really got a lot of use out of the screen static effect.
Oh yeah.
In this game.
It's in a lot of
especially when you're
places.
going past these gel zap enemies.
Gel zap enemies, security robots, when you get hit by certain stuff. Yeah.
Sometimes just randomly because it's technology, and the only reliable thing about it is that it reliably fails at the worst possible time.
That's right.
That last one doesn't happen in this game.
If you get too close to Samus's microwave on her ship.
We talked last time about whether or not the Chozo were extinct. You see, there is a section of the Chozo still left alive, and it's the tech support.
It's the what?
The tech support.
The tech
She has to
support.
call them whenever her suit just shuts down. She's like, I don't know what happened. It just turned off.
She has to call the old Nintendo tech support number.
It's just like an office room filled with ghosts.
It's just one guy in a room with like 100 Brady strategy guides.
See, I realized there at the last second that if I didn't jump back,
Okay, oh no.
I was gonna have to
Nice.
redo a lot of progress. That's another thing I love in big old quotes about this room, is if you're trying to like descend, no problem, just drop down. But if you're trying to go up, which this room goes up quite a ways, you're kind of SOL because it can be rather annoying to get to the top of this room just due to.
And you don't have the grapple beam yet. Not that this was
Platforming.
one of the
Yeah.
rooms that uses grapple beam all that much, but grapple beam does simplify a lot of rooms later.
Well, I mean, once we are going to have to go back to that room to grab something important later on in the game. But
Also, the energy tank that you walk past, that requires power bomb, right?
no, that requires the plasma beam.
To
So
melt
that's
the
going
ice.
to be that's going to be something we pick up when we're just kind of like doing the rounds in the final stretch of the game.
Yeah.
Because
That's fair. It's just one of
there's
those
not
ones
really
where it's
any
just
other
like,
good reason to go back and get that energy tank.
yeah,
It's
it's
so
just
far out of
that's
the
one of
way.
those times where it's just like, all right, I know that we've shattered ice using the power beam and missiles before. I wonder if we can shatter it this time. No,
It's like, no, this is special ice.
that's right.
Can't use a hammer. Can't use electricity.
Oh, man.
Can't
Fire
just
away
like breathe
things.
on it a lot.
So I'm actually kind of surprised that you waste the missile to kill that guy when you can just freeze him and just keep walking past.
Well, no, I wanted to show how many different ways there are to deal with that plant.
Oh, that's fair.
You can reflect his projectile at him, you can blow him up with the sap sack next to him, you can freeze him and hit him with a missile.
He just keeps coming back though.
He's a spunky little lad. No matter how many times I smack him down, he keeps trying to fight me.
Yeah, he's like a weed almost.
He's like a weeb almost.
Wow. I feel
Yeah, I
called
don't know where
out.
that came from.
They're
aren't
so
you
used
a
to getting
weeb?
turned down. They've evolved ways of coping.
Fascinating.
That's right.
To quote an iconic game trailer, he's more lonely than an anime fan on prom night.
Ha 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 ha.
Ha 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 ha!
Thankfully-
Mighty number 9.
Thankfully, I wasn't a weeb in high school, so that I was lonely on prom night for other reasons.
For yes. Oh.
Speaking of the
I'm
crap,
pretty sure I didn't even
beam.
know what night prom night was. I just had that little interest in it.
Oh, see, my mom was a teacher, and
Nice
so
save there.
I basically, would know what day it was otherwise. And I mean, free food.
True, although I did go to my school's homecoming dance, and the refreshments were pretty disappointing. I
Not
believe.
that refreshing.
I believe.
At your high school dance? No.
I believe my exact description of it when I was in high school after coming back from prom was they allowed us to have an Oreo cookie and a thimble of juice.
A thimble?
or punch
Do they
or
just,
whatever
like-
it was.
Do they just
literally
like
had
outlaw
a
sugar?
table. They had a table set up with like somebody manning it, like a teacher. Or
I'm
someone.
sorry. What is a thimble?
It's the thing you
the
put
little
on your
sewing
thumb when you're
thumb.
sewing.
Yeah, the little cup you would put on your thumb.
Oh.
Yeah.
Looks like a little helmet.
It was literally like when you have the little tiny cup that you take like cough medicine with or whatever. Those were the
Okay.
drink
Yeah.
cups.
Oh my god.
They had someone manning the table, and I guess they like didn't stock nearly enough, or they didn't want to stock enough to like give people any reasonable amount. So they were just like severely rationing things out.
Man, I went to Catholic school, and even they treated us better than that.
Like, was your school just that poor, or
No.
just lazy?
That's all you. I think the word you're looking for, Trent, is that cheap.
Stingy.
I'm glad you guys have never seen my prom pictures. Not only am I wearing a suit that makes me look like a rabbi, I also have spiky frosted tips hair.
Oh my god.
Fantastic.
Dude, that sounds rad as hell.
Yeah,
I don't
you're
know
the
what
cool
talking
rabbi. Cool, literally.
about. So anyway, here we are back at the Orpheon, which in one of my many moments of stupidity playing games when I was young, and to this day, some might say, I did not realize that this was the same space pirate frigate until like my second playthrough of this game.
I mean,
Yeah,
I didn't either. It's not very clear.
Even though in a lot of cases they're sending you through like the same rooms that you already went through during the opening, just in even more of a state of disrepair.
Aqua pirate.
This
Totally not a flying pirate.
Yeah.
Don't forget to scan them; they are unique.
Yeah.
This room gives me a little bit of PTSD because I came in here without the gravity suit because I forgot where I was going on one of my latest playthroughs.
Dude, the first time I played this game, I got all the way to the save point.
Yeah.
Without
you
the
can't-
gravity suit, and then after that point, you can't progress because like you just can't jump high enough.
So I do have to ask: is this the first time that we've been seeing the Samus's face reflection like this blatantly in the game?
We've seen it a couple times before, but we have been getting a lot of face shots in this episode. Another cool little touch that incorporates like the visor into gameplay, I guess.
Yeah, because like this is one of the times where it's just like it's super clear, like it's really easy to make it show up and it's like full brightness rather than like it's like when you're out and about, it can be kind of hard to get it to like fully show up.
It's also probably the most visually dated aspect of the game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, apart from the end when she just straight up takes
Yeah.
off her helmet. To be honest, I'm not really satisfied with any of the Prime games' depictions of like an unmasked Samus.
Well, to be fair,
They
they've
all just-
also all been on the GameCube and Wii, which weren't exactly known
They're
for
just-
graphical fidelity. Well, the GameCube at the time was, I think, pretty good for graphical fidelity.
It
but
was good for
not so much
graphical
the Wii.
fidelity. It was good for graphical fidelity at its price range, because you got to remember this was going up against like the PS2 and the original Xbox, but its whole claim to fame was that it was like a third of the price.
I think part of the reason why it's jarring in these games, as opposed to something like, like the Resident Evils of this gen or like the Metal Gear Solids, is just because in those games you're seeing like humans all the time. Whereas in Metroid Prime, you're seeing all of these like fantastical alien designs that, there's nothing else in, or at least in the game industry at the time, that looked like these creatures and characters. So when the game shows you like an actual human face, it's kind of like, oh my god.
God, I
Well,
remember this room
especially
and how
s-
annoying it is.
Well, and especially since like Samus's face model, it is just kind of like an ancillary nice little touch. Certainly not something that they put a lot of development time or disk space into.
Just imagine if you're like going around and you get the little flash on the screen that shows Samus's face and it just shows the outside of her helmet. So then you're like, alright, is she wearing another helmet underneath? Or
just for extra secrecy.
Or
How
is,
deep
it,
do the
or is there
helmets
some
go?
kind of like weird temporal loop thing going on where the reflection is showing the outside?
She has a windshield on top of her helmet.
It's like when you look
one-
into
or maybe
a
like
mirror
one of
and your
those-
reflection is looking the same direction as you.
Or maybe one of those like plexiglass like barriers they have in like businesses now. See, this game was like several generations ahead of its time.
Exactly.
Oh wow, keyhole. You could have just walked over.
Right.
No, man.
Several
Had to thread the
generations
needle.
ahead of its time. People mishandling an infectious disease substance at great risk to everyone else.
It's a good thing that only happens in fantasy,
Yeah. Or
purely
science.
not in the real world we live in.
Oh god. Samus
that's
just
what-
died there.
Yeah, that's what happens when you turn the thermal visor on in the Magmore Caverns. Also, don't forget to scan these guys too.
Oh yeah, Joe.
They're
what are you
also
doing?
unique.
Joe scanned them.
Yeah, Joe.
Joe.
Thankfully,
There
they
you go.
show. Yeah. There's enough. After a certain point, I remember. You know what? I better just scan them just to make absolutely sure the game's not trying to pull a fast one on me. And sure enough,
It was.
it was.
You only encounter these guys in what, 2 rooms in the game?
I just had a.
Well, and in the GameCube version, I think the Aqua Pirates and the Aqua Drones go away after this initial trip through the sunken Orpheon.
And they're replaced
So-
with more flying pirates and Chozo ghosts.
They're just flying underwater.
Yeah. Turns out
that's
there didn't
essentially what they're
actually
doing.
need to be a separate type of pirate.
Yeah.
But they did it just to mess with your logbook.
I should have called these ones floating pirates.
It's like normal space pirates in like scuba gear, like swimming with like flippers.
So I just had a horrifying thought for a like extreme, like basically European extreme for Metroid, where you have to scan every enemy, as in like every instance of the enemy to get a 100%
Oh.
logbook.
That doesn't sound fun at all.
No, well, it wasn't meant to be.
Especially since enemies infinitely respawn.
I predicated it as horrifying and not fun.
Have I already scanned Pirate 476?
You have to scan every enemy in the game without being spotted.
I'd only accept it if each scan had its own separate entry and like each enemy had its own life story.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
procedurally
Biography.
generating it. That would actually be a little interesting.
We have like a fun Easter egg in a Metroid game if the enemy's logbook entries were just like about like the individual enemy.
This is Bob. Bob really liked to make model ships. Then he got impressed into pirate service.
Yeah.
He liked to make model ships until you shot him.
It'd be
Thanks,
it'd be
Samus.
real fun and cool if they had just like one random enemy that had its own unique logbook entry. Except if you're going for 100%, in which case it would be horrible and stupid.
Well, you could still have it right, but it'd just be along the lines of just like when you scan like you scanned a random number, it just gives you the unique one.
Now, we're coming up on the end of the Orpheon here, and it is a sin that we have made it this far without commenting on the background music for this area,
It's so good.
because it is one of the most like serene and beautiful music tracks in this whole series.
Well, and it's also one of those things just like we've talked about like almost every track thus far. It's just like, here's the thing, everybody. This OST is a banger.
I'd say this is the best Metroid soundtrack, honestly.
Yeah, I could agree with that on a whole.
Even
like-
better
like-
than Metroid 1?
Yes.
Yes.
Because like,
Well, Metroid 1 did give us Kraid Slayer.
because like I would feel like personally like other Metroid soundtracks always have like one or two songs that are probably like what I would call like overall better than what Prime gets, but like Prime is just like the most consistently like really good soundtrack.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think for me personally, what sets Prime like over the top into just and elevates it above the other games is that this one kind of established like a completely unique like musical style for the series, with just like the the very distinct like instrument choices that were made, and
Yeah.
Like there's no other like video game music that really sounds like Metroid Prime music, whereas stuff like Super Metroid and Fusion, like those songs are great, and I'm certainly not going to say that they don't evoke Metroid, but like when it comes to the way that they're composed and the instruments that they use, like you hear those in other games,
right?
Or like those styles in other, they're just a little more traditionally like orchestral.
And you mentioned how the 2D games also invoke Metroid. I think probably another like really impressive thing about the Metroid Prime OST is just how well it fits a 3D Metroid. Like it feels like what a Metroid soundtrack should be for a 3D game, despite the fact that it's way different than what a Metroid 2D soundtrack should feel like.
Yeah, it was kind of like the rebirth of the series on the Nintendo GameCube, now available 20 years ago.
Hey, you can still get it on the Wii U.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
No.